Very exciting plan. Now we have a great game here coming up with rivals team C-Store Podcast versus the Vultures. I am Zombie Bacon. I'm here with Revenant, the one and only. How are you, Rev?
I'm doing great. I'm excited today. This is going to be a big, exciting game for me. I have a lot of friends on both these teams, a lot of cool people today. We're going to see some exciting plans, I believe. Starting off strong here with this Lumberyard take.
Yes, I think we have the same friends, Rev. Now, this is going to be very interesting. C-Store, the podcast crew, as I'm going to call them, are going for a very aggressive take through Lumberyard, through hallway with a wall charge straight in the office. Where I'm really looking to see if we get the same Nemesis flash control because they have Smith on their team, and I'm sure Smith's been hyping up the podcast crew. They're going to be really strong. But however, Saint Sam, strong player for Vultures here, out at the very. If we know Sam's going to deliver.
I think you're right about that. Dad and Gundam. I can't see anyone else, unfortunately, but I can see them on the map. So you're going to have to help me out here a little bit. But I can see that they have a player in Lumberyard right now with a barbed wire in hand, ready to play part of the hallway. Double barb, actually, in the hallway. Almost a full counter to this play they're about to go into. Gundam has the leg rose playing at East Club right now, ready for those wall bangs. No one's in. Dad also starting to put some shots into that barbed wire. Smith taking a little bit of damage, but the wall charge is down. It's not going to kill anyone on point, but they have full access to that bomb site. 5v3 scenario now. An immediate snowball into Kino. Oh, but Potrar finds a pick, and now has perfect bomb control with Gundam on the far side of the map. Dad's going to get picked off. It's going to be a 2v3 scenario now with Gundam on the east end of the map with a Legros. Ingmar and Legros now on the bomb retake. One flash in hand on Senpai. Jamerson also gets picked out. It's a 1v2 scenario. This is winnable. Gundam, he could get back on bar to play the long angle into that defusal, but he's not going to. He's going to play close with his pistol. That's going to be a wipe, and that's going to be a round for C-Store Podcast.
Absolutely, podcast crew. Great take from a little chaotic up there in that northern office, but ultimately working out. Flash placements really on point, really coming down strong, pushing Dad off a site into Brick House, as well as Kino just couldn't see a thing and therefore couldn't respond. I was surprised to not see as many wall bangs coming out from Vultures there, because now, Revenant, correct me if I'm wrong, but with a very high pen weapon like the Legros, you can actually shoot through 2 walls on Kill House, pardon me, and still do full damage, correct?
That should be correct in almost every case. Now, you do have objects in the way here, but even playing just next to the bar green door, you would be able to get cleanly through the object in front of the bomb on this east side, on this line I'm drawing, straight into that bomb and really easily dealing with that, playing back and forth from the door at bar. Surprising that they did not take a more aggressive push with the flashbangs into that door to clear people out who would be doing that, but conversely, the defenders in that case were not doing that anyway. So that was surprising to see. Honestly, Pop-Tart, though, finding 2 picks there in the midst of all that chaos, really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, still not a bad play from Vultures, killing ultimately 3 attackers, doing a lot of eco damage to them. So I think that's something that is going to ultimately be very useful for them. Now, we are loading into Factory here. Can't quite see it yet, but going into Factory without a wall charge, there is no C-Store, ironically, for the C-Store podcast on this attack set. So they don't need that wall charge. It's a great call from them to use that early, looking at those maps. Now, Hurricane Fists. This is a great example of how hectic Pipeworks can get now that this is in the game. Wouldn't you agree, Rev?
Yes, I would. This Pipeworks is a pretty cool one. I mean, there's some stuff that might not be obvious right away. You can climb up onto right next to the bomb, actually, just north of it, onto this little platform up here. Pipeworks has some folding areas that create some interesting cover next to the fan. I mean, it adds a lot of interesting dynamics to the angles and gameplay, but I think most uniquely about this map is not just the Pipeworks, it's the relationship between Pipeworks and Dock and how it feeds into a Dock bomb, which is pretty irregular.
Yeah, Dock Bombs we don't normally see. I also want to point out on this Pipeworks, one of my favorite advents with Pipeworks as of now is a lot of the barrels that have been added in around. So, like, for example, on this fan, where we do see this barb coming out from the Vultures, on where I'm circling now, on that barrel, you can actually stand up and get a really nasty angle, very nasty head angle onto that fan. Now, Pipeworks, very exciting. I do want to warn quite a few of our players, either new and old, because we have seen this actually, and I've experienced this in game a few times. If we look in corners like this, while it's not exact, if there are a few corners where you'll have boxes that are just slightly staggered, where if you fall down in between there, you'll actually get stuck in pipeworks and you won't be able to go anywhere, and
That's
that's not a
right.
fun place to be. We're here to play the game, not be stuck in a single place playing tower defense.
Yeah, I think this round is going to come down to. It looks like the defenders, their plan is coming down to holding pretty much just the south end of the map. They have no coverage in servers. We've got Gundam playing sort of back and forth on dock here, trying to find an angle to play towards the north pipeworks. But the attackers are going for a north push. Defenders are for the most part playing south. It's going to be a clash of a lot of long range angles and not a whole lot of ratting or anything going on here. But we do see Kino playing in that little rat spot up next to the bombs. That should be an exciting thing to watch out for.
Very, and I think also this is a great play because really they're cutting down the angles they need to watch in half. Fan and servers are essentially the same angle, as well as this right green door where we don't really expect anyone to go.
And the fan's going to get opened up with Smith and Jamerson pouring in now. Kino and Gundam taking a fight against them, but actually trading out a lot of damage. Now we have 5 people pushing through Vipers, but a beautiful Molly comes out, dealing a lot of damage. Now a 4v3 scenario, Kino getting a double pick there. Sam watching the east end of the map, Dad as well, holding that crossfire. Pop-Tart and Kino now having to hold Pipeworks on their own. Dad hearing the noise and reacting to it slightly. Dork getting pushed in a little bit. Worst taking some damage here and there. A really beautiful pick from Pop-Tart. And Sam playing the long angle from east up on the catwalk. They don't see where Dad is. It's up to Senpai now in a 1v3 situation. He's going to sneak up towards Doc, and he's going to find Pop-Tart, but Pop-Tart's going to actually trade some damage back in. Dad's going to play aggressive and will pick up the kill on Senpai. Beautiful plays there from Vultures, who actually just played that south side really well. They understood all the angles there. They played cooperatively, and I think the attackers not threatening any sort of damage on the east end of the map was really critical, because that let Sam and Dad play reactively to the 5-man push. What do you think about their attack there?
I think the attack actually was very flawed in my opinion. I think they really wanted too strongly to focus on that singular angle. Jamerson had the right idea, coming out of fan, pushing up that pipe work, but Kino with that beautiful molly really denied them anything, turning it quickly into a 4v3. Saint Sam proving that the Gruber is more than just a close range gun, getting a nasty long range kill with that. I mean, I think it was I wouldn't have taken that attack because I think it didn't utilize the full utility of what they could have done as attackers, particularly with their health pool. But that doesn't mean Vulture's defense was not fantastic there and made the absolutely right calls that they did.
Yeah, I think that if the attack there was a little bit too streamlined, they put themselves in that perfect funnel, and then Molotov did a ton of damage immediately. There were so many angles to play off of, and we didn't really see any smokes being used to defend that. I'm actually restarting my game right now just to get back into the next lobby, so I'm going to let you handle any sort of analysis right now.
That's fine. I'll take it away. We're on Silver Artemis, and now, actually, really early on, we saw the C-Store podcast crew coming out with actually a very similar plan. They're looking for a very economical take here, going really just through green into castle, it seems. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see them blow this northern jungle. Northern jungle is great, but the issue with it is you get really stuck there. And while there's not that many angles to fight, you're also only 2 places to get out of there. But moving from there, that's great. Going down to ruins, we did see Worst from the podcast crew drawing out here possibly a red door into ruins to divvy up that that pit take, pardon me, because you have the strong castle window watching the pit button, as well as this angle actually from castle is very strong, holding all the way down the green door. So what we have seen some teams do, and actually I just played a scrim against Flogels who did this, they actually opened up the castle door early, barbed green door, and held it with long angle guns, as we see Pop-Tart with the mop there, as well as Gundam Soul bringing out an attacker Blacktar on defense. Really interesting plays coming out from the Vultures here, playing with that economy and saving some very valuable guns for themselves.
Very, very cool. I'm back in, and it looks like this is an interesting map to be playing for sure. Just taking a quick glance at these barbed wires as well. They seem a little peculiar, especially that one on the drop down in jungle, but I think that's going to be pretty impactful here, actually, if they end up pushing that, which it looks like they will. Already we're seeing a nice split push here coming up from, looks like Dork's actually making the rotate too, a 3-2 split with Senpai and Jamerson playing the north end of jungle just to play cover towards castle and into jungle. Already the button's pressed, and Smith's going to be flashing into castle. That looks like a good flash on Gundam, who's actually going to manage to get the Molotov out, but it won't be perfect. But they're going to let it spread just in time.
Molly spread is such a strange thing right now to deal with. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Oh!
Wow, Smith with a beautiful frag grenade into the observation room, taking out Pop-Tart, giving him just enough room to push with worst here, just being able to take out Gundam. Dad in a sticky situation now, actually not taking any damage yet, and dealing a lot of damage in return to the attackers. A very good position to be in right now. Wow, a pick comes out from Senpai on Sam, and Kino's going to trade into Smith. But that's going to be a wipe immediately. That snowball was just too powerful. Just dealing with observation so cleanly there.
Absolutely. I think, unfortunately, I don't really agree with holding observations in this case. That's just my personal opinion from playing this map. I feel you're much stronger to actually have someone down here in River, because this River hold onto Obs is actually very strong because you can still see through everything, and you can also hold Ruins. Now, Saint Sam there just getting, unfortunately, sabered. Beautiful one-tap coming out from Senpai. And I think flashes, as we see, are always strong, and Smith bringing out the Nemesis aim. And that frag grenade was impeccable.
Yeah, that was a beautifully placed frag grenade. That was actually a very impressive round for them. That's going to put them in a 2-1 scenario now. Pretty good lead. I think the defense played it really close, though, so I wouldn't be surprised if this went 2-1 for Vultures as well, but we're going to see. This kill house, I think, has the most flexibility in terms of tactical options. We're probably going to see a very different play here on this kill house, but I might be surprised. Who knows?
Now, Vultures, Kino is actually such a strong player, and Saint Sam as well. Now, Pop-Tart's actually a very, very old Mazer sub from way back when, beginning of Season 2 as well. Now, Smith here, I am not surprised, who's bringing out a lot of the Nemesis style play into the podcast crew. You know, he's able to play in Rivals, and it's great, and he's really enriching it. And I'm glad to see the podcast crew doing as well as they do. Please check out the C-Store podcast. It's a great podcast to listen to for anything due process related. Now, Vultures actually calling out against the play that ultimately won podcast crew the round last time, calling out those wall bangs I think they're realizing they should have done, but now ultimately C-Store crew coming out with a very, very strong barb play, really actually focusing more on holding the northern office and brick house side rather than falling back into that. They're expecting an aggressive play from Vultures, which I believe is the right call. Now, on this map, there's a really interesting dynamic, in my opinion, with this club area, because we're seeing more and more wall bang interruption coming out on Kill House.
Right.
Whether it's these stacks of bricks or these vending machines, things like that, as well as bar just in weird places. I think it's a really fascinating to see, and really actually breaks up the old meta that we saw with Kill House, which is, oh, I don't have to see anybody, I'll just shoot them through a wall.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting here. I think their bard placement is, I mean, it's interesting. They have Jamerson actually playing for that wall bang, but he's going to be playing off of one wall. That's a missed opportunity, if you ask me. Now, it is safer for him to be playing here so that he can rotate through brick house back into office, but not utilizing two walls means that they can shoot right back with an AP and deal full damage, so he's going to have to be very, very careful to do that. Likewise, Dork is actually playing with the Tub 12 in hallway on the right side. He has the Molotov for the green push. That is probably going to be effective, but I doubt if he does any damage, they're not going to know that he's there. So they're going to probably clear that out immediately upon entering that green if they're going to be pushing that. But I think it might look like a club push with Dad being on flank and Lumber. Pretty interesting play. Pop-Tart late out of the truck.
3 smokes.
Yeah, very interesting take right now. Lots of exterior smokes, and honestly, no one's in club to contest off of that. Dad kicking in the hallway. Dork has to watch both sides. He's in a very bad spot right now, but pushing that door is even worse for the attackers against the top 12. Ollie's going to come out early, but if you look at the flash and general utility right now, no picks, no damage, and only 2 flashes left. And one of those flashes is on Dad, who is in the flanking position. This is going to be a 1 flash take from Pop-Tart. If this flash doesn't land, it's going to be a bad situation for Vultures. Let's see how this plays out. Flash is good, and that's going to be a quick take from Sam and Pop-Tart. Kino now finding his way in, but lots of damage dealt to the defenders. No picks yet. Really good wall bangs, and finally Sam's going to get a pick on Jamerson and Senpai, trading right back into Sam, though. Lots of damage being dealt now to the attackers. 3v3 situation. Powerful Molly comes out into club. Only one left. Smith has the auto shotgun playing west inside brick house. Has to play this super carefully. Kino playing the long arm, ready to swing around. Gundam checking all the corners. No time left. Smith's going to swing. He's going to find 1 pick. Wow. really, really well done. But look at that, almost exactly parallel. 2 attackers alive again. This time though, they're going to walk away with an auto shotgun. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, actually, a really interesting play there. We don't normally see teams only take 3 flashes, and also the utilization of smokes from Vultures. Want to give them huge props. One coming out in Lumberyard, and those 2 exterior smokes in Club make a lot of sense for that take. I think they were a little slow to fully utilize them, but in terms of throwing off the defenders there, worked 100%.
Yeah, that was really cool. I mean, I love seeing that kind of stuff. I love seeing each team kind of find their personality and do interesting things. I don't know whose plan it was to do exterior smokes, but maybe they know I'm watching because I love exterior smokes. I love those corner smokes. Something I really like doing on maps like that. But I wouldn't say they were tremendously effective, but they did eventually, maybe indirectly, result in the defender team having to play deep inside bomb site and playing just west of bomb. No one was trying to play club at that point off of that smoke grenade, so it
Well,
might have worked pretty well.
I also feel that they weren't playing club anyway, and if any, more so than anything else, I think it really just was a psychological implement rather than a actual physical one. Um,
Yeah,
I think that's where the value came from, as well as I think they're actually going to have a rough time here now because they only have 1 smoke. This particular factory, Hurricane Fist, I find very, very strong for smokes. One of my favorite strats here is actually to smoke out power, run and grab it, a sacrificial lamb, if you will. And I feel that power, because smokes are only 8 seconds now, so you can get that, grab it, and even if you die, by the time power's out, your team has a lot of ability to hold this very, very well in the dark. We do
yeah,
see podcasts are coming out with similar barbs as well to what the Vultures had, and Vultures going for a very aggressive take, actually in the vein of what the podcast crew did, looking at that fan, but I think going to go for a much more aggressive, hopefully staying up on Pipeworks, because the great thing about this bridge here is you can actually assault into factory a lot deeper without having to drop. So there are a lot of angles actually available to you. If either you're a defender wanting to play up in office, or if you're an attacker who wants to go here, but be careful, avoid the toxic pick. You fall in there, you do die. I have done
right.
that more times than I'd like to admit.
Yeah, look at that. Dork of Doom and Jamerson, the podcast duo, both with KRs here. Smith is actually bringing out Smitty Snipes today, playing in the back of the truck. Actually, surprisingly, bringing Senpai just next to him with an Ingmar, supporting that same long lane. So I guess when Smith is reloading, Senpai can kind of peek out and play that. And that works pretty well. Often these long, empty trucks don't really serve a purpose in fighting long lanes, but in this case, that angle is perfect for him because he doesn't have to show himself if he's playing in the far back of the truck. So pretty smart decision to put him there. Kino's going to be right in, though. This is a full push already. Kino extremely aggressive. His team not catching up to him, but he's going to find a perfect pick on Dork. Beautifully done. Well executed from him. The smoke is going to just cut off one of the trucks, but it's not the one they need. 3 attackers now on the dock, but that's going to be an absolute slaughterhouse for them. 3 of them dead. 2 attackers now stuck on the north end of the map against 4 defenders. Kino's pick is the only one that the attackers were able to pick up. So Vulture's not in an ideal situation now, but you'll notice both of them have flashbangs, and 2 of those characters are actually low. So, wow, okay, Pop-Tart's going to be popping down. Back in the servers, though, just checking what is going on in there. Checking all their flanks here. I'm not sure that either team has a good grip of this situation. It doesn't look like they understand where Sam is. Worst is not controlling that angle. Jamerson's going to take a lot of damage because of that. But no, Worst is going to find the pick in Pop-Tart instead of Sam, actually, who was the one peeking. This is going to be a 1v4 situation from Sam, but I know Sam, and I know he can clutch these. He has the flash in hand. A lot of the defenders, low HP, but he does not have the time. He has 40 seconds now and has to push a barb against minimum 2 people, and there's a mop in the back of Doc.
It's a long way to go for Sam. I think ultimately he's just trying to back out and save that. Gets the trade. Oh, on Jamerson.
Beautiful. I think with 1 flash in hand, considering the economy boost that they already have in this game, what Sam should be doing right now is pushing through Pipeworks, trying to pick up a kill on Smith, and then controlling that mop position so that they can't retake the mop, if anything, just for the economical impact that he can make with merely having an AP in his hand. He does not need to save anything here. Beautifully done again, just finding picks here and there, but I mean, any kill you get when you have an AP in hand versus things like an Ingmar or a KR is good. That's a good move against the defenders, because every one of their guns serves a specific purpose, and removing guns from a defender arsenal is not the same as an attacker arsenal. You remove a defender gun, that's a tool they no longer have to deal with certain types of angles and threats that they want to deal with.
Yeah, the attackers have APs for days. Defenders do not have any weapon like that. It's very unfortunate sometimes, but I mean, podcast duo pulling a podcast move there, losing both KRs one round.
That's right.
But
We're
I
heading into
feel
Dome now. I don't know how many Ingmars do you think they have. I didn't quite see. I think
no.
Voice
I
had one
believe
still. So
Train
did
Me
Senpai.
dropped his for an AP. I saw mid round.
Interesting.
So I believe if they do pick it up, because if I remember correctly, Worst was one of the people left actually. He was sitting in office with a Ingmar, I believe. So I think they're going to be bringing back a Mop and only an Ingmar, only one this time. But hopefully Smith can actually land his shots on this map. On Silver Artemis, he was whiffing left and right, being carried by the podcast crew. Now Vultures, I want to see what Vultures are going to do here, because again, we're starting to see some very creative attacks come out from them. Not only while that factory map was pretty standard, it was more what I was expecting to see, and as well as that smoke usage on the kill house was very fascinating. Um, do want to give props though, and I know this is something we're talking about in our DPL team right now. The usage of the wonderful map icons. Now we do see that Vultures are putting that to good use, possibly even claiming their spots. Now, Rev,
Yeah,
big brain trick I want to point out to all of our people at home who play. This
right.
warning icon that you place with, I believe it's H, stays throughout the round, so that's never going to go away.
That's right.
So for things like pre-fires or wall bangs, they're much better than pinging now, and I would highly recommend that you start using that in all your games.
Yeah, I would say the only I think most of this update with the icon system was quality of life and enhancing competitive play. But the one major tool that got added was definitely the warning ping and the flexibility of that tool. You can absolutely use that thing as a much better basic ping, and like you said, throughout the round, you can use that thing for all kinds of stuff. I mean, you can use that for wall bangs. You can use it for opening up stuff. I mean, I don't know that people are not. Maybe people aren't using enough of them, but I like to see the full five. I like to mark out every position I want to see pre-fired and just have them everywhere you need.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can also do it a little bit into the start of the round too. I figured that out. If you find something you're like, oh god, I forgot this, you can still mark it.
Yep, absolutely. You can use it anytime you want. Parpet's actually bringing the Saber down to Pit, which is pretty great for dealing with the Castle battlements. He's actually going to be playing Windows right now for Castle. They're going to door charge up top. Jamerson actually gets it with not a scratch, but Sam's going to take a tiny bit of damage there. That's going to be a Molly cutting off the rest of his team. It all comes down to how Pop-Tart and Gundam can deal with Smith, who's got the mop, Jamerson, who has the wall bangs ready. Yep, there are the wall bangs coming out now from the Legros, going right through the drawbridge on castle doors. Dork actually carries a late barb, I think, for observation, which is kind of cool. Flashes come out towards jungle, and they find the back of Smith there, who's going to take a tiny bit of damage. But now Smith is going to rotate around and watch north. That's going to be a big shot coming out on Dad, who's now very low HP, but a lot of damage gets traded into the C-Store podcast. Senpai is not being dealt with, and there's no flashes left in hand, but Dad's going to get picked off. Sam's going to go down pretty low. The push happens right into Dork. Dork's going to swing down into Pop-Tart with a knack. Gundam needs to find this kill. He does. This is one left now. I mean, very clean. Ooh. Wow, Smith finds the perfect peek through observation window right into Gundam and Castle. Smith needs to do a 1v2 take now from pretty much just that battlement window. That is not ideal. As long as Kino is watching that battlement, Sam can stick this. No, Sam is going to get picked off. This is up to Kino now to finish off the defuse. Smith could clutch this pretty easily at this point. Kino is already tagged. But Kino knows exactly where Smith is. He's going to barb off his own door. Oh, and just at the last second, Smith with a 4K this round. Smitty snipes in the chat. Let's see it. Smitty snipes. Nails it. Now they're 4v2. Brilliantly played by Smith. Just unfortunate timing from Sam and Kino not playing perfectly in tune with each other to play off of that very particular angle that Smith was playing there. I mean, very efficiently done from Smith.
Very, very efficiently done. And also taking that angle on such a tight close way really enabled him to avoid the angle that Kino was holding there as well. I do want to point out also Smith dropped down and actually placed a barb on the green door in the middle of that fight,
Yeah,
denying entry into that. I mean, just stellar individual play from Smith there.
that was really, really, really cool because definitely, I mean, you cannot risk like the risk reward there is Kino could have a flash, maybe he could find one, he could push that door, he could kick it. Then you're up against maybe a laser, maybe from a black tower or even an AP. At that point, you don't want to take that chance with a mop, and I think that was just brilliant individual play, like you said. That was
Yeah,
really, really cool.
absolutely. Such a strong individual player Smith is. I mean, we know he comes from the upper league DPL team right now, and it's just fantastic plays from him. I guess hopefully we'll see some analysis on that. Now, going forward into this next round, getting the C Store podcast wanting to prove that yes, you can in fact hold C Store. The podcast crew wants to do their namesake right now. Fridges. I know I've talked about it before, but I'll talk about it again because I can and no one can stop me. A really great addition here to Storefront, in my opinion, because before this would have just been a very, very open space. And how do you hold that? But with Fridges now, these barbs coming up from the podcast crew make it much more effective to be able to hold these angles from freezer a little longer, actually. So then you're also playing that anti-flash. And also with the new economy coming out, the economy reset on this next third quarter, we do finally have some long range guns. But Rev,
Right.
what's
Yeah.
my favorite thing on C Store?
Your favorite thing on C Store?
Yes.
You're the explosive guy. You just wall charge it.
No, it's DDR. Wrong.
DDR.
DDR. Come on. There's 5 machines here.
You
Podcast
got
crew, they're going to storm through Vultures, and they are going to absolutely enjoy some DDR after this is done. Jamerson and Worst playing together as well. Actually, it's a very aggressive prep coming out. Dork of Doom and Smith rocking the tubs in storage
yeah.
and bathroom. Senpai here getting a little slow. Gonna
Now hold on,
trying to
hold
go
on.
for the barbs.
I'm fixated here. Is there 5 or is there 4? I'm counting one,
There's
two,
5,
3, 4.
but see that's a double.
You count that as 2. Okay, 1 cabinet,
Yes.
2 floors, 2
5
player
people
mode.
can play.
That's fair. Now that we got that ironed out, we're looking at an instant
Whoa.
pick there from the window straight into the doorway on Jamerson. That is not good. And also putting another player down to very low health. That's going to be Dork as well. Dork and Jamerson not holding that green door the way they wanted to. I don't know if they forgot about the window, but it might have looked like it.
Podcast moment if I've ever seen one.
Oh no, I mean, they'll be talking about that one in the next episode for sure. Senpai now in a really sticky situation, not going to find the trade, but does put Kino down to 1 HP. I mean, this is already not looking like a win.
Ooh,
Though Smith will find a nice flank. No, but Pop-Tart, old teammate, is going to find the pick onto Smith. That's going to put them in a 4v1 situation where Worst has no possible way of getting back through arcade. Really unfortunate seeing a setup that I think was conducive to playing knack wall bangs and playing a strong teller's hold and holding arcade, and then we saw everyone shift and play 3 guys up in storage. That really, I don't think, was the plan initially. I'm not sure if they had their own twist on the plan or what, but
yeah, talk about creativity though. I think they were really, like you said, I think podcast crew there was playing for a strong retake side. They have this huge rotate through tellers and office, it completely open, that just ultimately wasn't able to come to fruition as well. I do also want to say we did see Dork of Doom trying to play ratty in that corner, but you have to keep something in mind if you're going to rat what player model you have, because visibility and also with certain elements, I believe it's the hair of some of the models, really do affect how visible you are in those corners.
yeah, that is true. Also, some characters have horns or like a bright orange hoodie and things like that. I mean, it is a weird element of the game to think about, but it's not really intended gameplay to be crouched looking at the floor in a corner somewhere anyway. That's not that may have become something that the game has evolved into, but it only really works in some specific rooms where there isn't a window that's going to look right at your back. So you got to be very careful about that kind of ratting.
I have made that mistake when I've had the character model with the bright green jacket and I'm trying to hide in a corner, and I don't think they can see me, but I'm wearing bright green, and in fact they can.
Also, that was a green door take. That was just freezer and push and kill everyone. There
But
was
also,
no charge there.
I want to point out they did bring a frag, saved it, didn't use
Yeah.
a great restraint from Vultures.
That's really, really good. You see that a lot of people actually save it in positions where they should have used it and ends up getting stolen, or they use it in like a 4v2 scenario when you could have saved it. Same goes for late door charges and elements of the game like that. Those things get used, I think, at inappropriate times, but it's such a minor thing sometimes. But the impact it has by ironing out that part of your gameplay and keeping and saving those items, that impact is huge the next round. You often see double charge plays because of that kind of thing, or powerful
Mhm.
frag grenades dealing with key positions in the map that they just couldn't afford before because they needed that frag for a barbed wire, and they can now afford it. So I think that's going to play out here really well because, I mean, look, you've got this reception office pincer that Kino's drawn out here. He even wants to take kitchen. Not sure where this is going to go yet, but some standard barbs, I think, so far. They're actually going to double barb hallway, perhaps? That's
Double barb hallway is
clear.
actually a really great play, and what I actually like to do is
There
I
it is.
like barbing some of these angles, either this
Yeah,
one or this one,
I
and then
like
just
that too.
holding from long because they are not really able to get a flash deep enough if you barb correctly to do anything but aim punch you, as long as you're not staring at it, right? So
Yeah,
going from this, I think the vultures here are some bougie boys, as we know. Fortunately, Kino's very generous, as we all know from watching the DPL streams, but I think
that's right.
this is going to be very dangerous for them. Smith playing an office with that auto shotty, dropping the gun to leave one mag behind just in
He's
case he
got a
needs it
flare.
later.
He's got a flare. What's his
Flares are
plan here?
great though. I think flares for that
Yeah, he's
on the wall for
there.
that
It
like
is.
light bloom, that hurts, man. I'm going to tell you.
That's
If
really
your
interesting. That's going to
ideas on
make it
that,
harder to check this out. Yeah. Also,
you
did you
do
notice that
that. Hmm.
Smith put his barb here? That was his actually his decision to put it there, which means that he wants to play off of a reception take here really strongly, and that's what we're seeing right now. I don't know how he made that call, but that was really really bright. That was a lot of insight to know that they were going to push this doorway here.
A little bit of a wasted utility there.
A little bit. You could have definitely picked that dry. Shots are going to come out and Dad's going to fire back, but you got to be careful about these angles because you're dealing with all these bulletproof objects here. So it's a little challenging to get through there. Wow, okay, but a lot of damage comes out on the train, on Senpai. They have the frag grenade for this charge. Sam's got the door open. Ollie comes out, no problem. Throw the frag in. This is going to be a textbook take, but Dad taking a lot of damage. They need to kick that red door and get out of the building so they're not taking damage during this Molotov.
Oh. They're going to do something weird. I see the wall charge down on the wall.
That's gonna be interesting. That means the frag is for the pillbox, I assume. But you're letting the defenders stack up intensely.
Yeah.
Now Kino's actually gonna get picked off immediately. Smith has the incredible wallbang machine right next to them at this point. They're just not moving. Finally, the charge comes out. They're all super low, though. They need flashes right now. Dad, you have the last smoke. Gunham, you have the frag. Frag's on the floor now. Oh, no. It's a disaster. Sam has 1 HP and has to basically clean up everyone here. Pop-Tart is a knack. He's not going to be able to deal with Pillbox. And that's
They don't know where Sam is.
again. Even then. And now... Wow, he gets two, though! Sam, just an incredible player, honestly, sometimes. But Smith got the auto here, and he's not going to let Sam get out with 1 HP, so...
Will they find the frag? It's the ultimate game of find the needle in the haystack here.
Smith's not looking for it. Dork isn't even checking bodies. There's Smith. He's got it. He's picked it up. That's brutal. Their kitchen play was just an abject disaster, if you don't mind me saying. I mean, they sat in there against the entire defender team, who at that point had isolated that they hadn't pushed the barbed wire into office. No other charges were used. They knew exactly where they were. They knew they were out of reception and into kitchen. You put 5 attackers in kitchen. That's time to wallbang. Gats come out. The auto shotgun comes out. Those are easy wallbangs to go for. You just aim straight in the middle of the kitchen between the shelving units, between the stoves and everything, and just go nuts. And that worked out really well for them. The attackers were down a ton of HP. Vultures just didn't have the health bars to take any fights as soon as they came into that room. And the wall charge angle that they were setting up, I didn't think it panned out, or they just didn't do it early enough. But honestly, a great thing to do in that situation is kick the red door and get out of the building while there's a molly. Get back in the building when it's time to push again.
Yeah, they can't shoot you if you're outside, basically. Now, beyond that, also that pillbox is such a strong wall bang angle because you're protected. That's a different wall thickness now. That's brick walls now. It's no more Mr. Wooden pillbox. Vultures going for a bold play. It looks like drawing out a straight to power from Doc Red here on Malice rifle.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
They have a lot of opportunities to do a split push here that can really efficiently deal with Toxic, and they can create that great angle. But if they're not dealing with storage and flanking in through Toxic, then this could be really bad for them late round, where the guy in Toxic then has the ability to get up this ramp. and kind of fight back and play off of the push that is happening at Dock. So I think we're going to have to see a split push, and it looks like that's what they're going to be doing.
Yeah, it has to be. And beyond that, this conveyor's take is so hard, especially if you're really actually wanting to just power through for that power, pun intended.
Mhm.
You need a lot of smokes. You need tons, and more importantly than that, you need the smokes to actually go up on the conveyors because you want them to actually sit a little higher than you. Because you're not necessarily worried about the people here shooting you. What you're really worried about are the individuals sitting up on pipeworks shooting
Yeah,
at you.
that's
Um,
exactly right.
those are the real threats. And while we don't see the podcast crew putting many of those people out, I'm assuming they're going to be coming quite soon. Now, ultimately, what I'd like to see this plan out is actually only 1 or 2 people on dock, and actually preferably a 3 or 4 going through storage. Um, that's the proper way to take, and I think that's what we're going to see. Pop Tart taking the saber down to
3.
dock side.
It's going to be minimum 3. It looks like they've got double door charge. Actually, Sam's got a door, Dad's got a door. Clacker's on Kino, and Popper has smoke and flash. This is going to be 5. Oh no, this could be brutal for them. But we're
No, it looks
not
like
seeing anyone playing toxic. Actually, it's going to come down to Smith and his frag grenade here. If Smith can
Mhm.
land a frag on 5 of them there, no, yeah, Dad's going to
well,
be going off.
that's
It
going
looks like
off
with
as
the
might
door.
be splitting it that way 3-2.
Even then, I think that the inability for them to take power control or take the north end of storage is going to hurt them late round because of the amount of pixel peaks. They have the folded object in north of Pipeworks to deal with. That's a long pixel peak they have to work on,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a barbed wire right into that, so that's going to be tough for them. Oh no!
Oh,
A frag grenade comes out, but only thankfully deals it with just Dad. But no! Smith's going to find a snipe on Sam. That's 2 of them now. Looks like no one called that the frag grenade was on the defenders now. Oh, and another shot goes out on Pop Tart. Smith has dealt a tremendous amount of damage now to the door charge, to the door charge on Dock. That push is now completely decimated. But 2v4 scenario, some HP damage done. They've dealt with the barbed wire in office, and Gundam could take this fight against Jamerson. Worst is not holding the long angle anymore. There it is. Gundam's going to find the kill, but that's it for Pop-Tart. Smith with a 3K this round already. Gundam now having to take out 3 defenders. One of them has a mop on conveyors. This is not going to be easy for him. I think he needs to play down by Doc again and just take the fight on Smith really quick and deal with the mop. What do you think here? How does he win this round? How does he get out of this? Or how does he
Gundam
deal
Soul.
with
I actually like what Gundam Soul's doing. I like him taking the individual fights. He has more strength winning than against a mop, particularly with his health pool.
I just don't see him getting out of this against this sort of crosshair that they have with the Ingmar and the Legros, and even then Smith can play into this angle as well at the door. It just completely negates any sort of flexibility that Gundam has in terms of movement. He needs to just swing onto Worst, but Worst has a really powerful spot there. He's gonna.
Yeah, I think Gundam there actually need to be more aggressive because your eco doesn't matter at that point. You're just saving your KD if you're actually trying to save there, which isn't the thing you need. Ultimately, what should have happened, in my opinion, there, Gundam should have swung out onto Worst immediately, taken that close fight because he knew Worst was low, and then switch his attention by pushing into office, denying those angles from Smith, as well as taking the fight with the member of the podcast crew on those pipeworks. But more than that, I want to point out Smith's ingenious flare that was put out on Doc, just sitting in the middle there. That thing is so hard to see by if you're scoped in on Saber, and
Yep.
really, I think saved his life when he did take that fight with Pop Tart and ultimately won it.
Yeah, those flares are brutal right now, and we're seeing a lot of those flares end up on the dock. I mean, even if the flare is right in that doorway, what are you going to do? Stick your head in the doorway and lean down for a second, risking that angle against a mop? No. So, I mean, the Saber player can't deal with that. The other players can barely deal with it. You need a smoke, you need flashes. There's just utility wasn't there. There just wasn't enough utility to deal with that, and I don't know if that was a product of Dad getting picked off with the frag grenade or not, but I imagine it comes down to some communication. I don't think that frag was properly articulated. I don't think that they explained that that was on the floor in the bomb site in the previous round. So that was a major impact, I think, on that round. Putting it into a 4v5 immediately like that is pretty brutal sometimes.
It just I don't know what you're supposed to do against it there, especially when you have such a powerhouse of a player like Smith on your team. Now I think Smith paled in comparison to his compatriots when he was on Nemesis because that team is just stacked, but here we're getting to see Smith do a lot more of what Smith does. Now, Vulture's going for a very interesting hold, actually. I think they're wanting to hold storefront, as it
Yeah,
seems, at least with the barbs they have placed out. It really denies them a lot of the rotation that they would gain from leaving arcade open, as well as, I
Mhm.
mean, they're really restricting themselves to either long angles in arcade or out of that teller, which personally I don't like, just because I think it removes a lot of the mystery. Because yes, you can have someone in teller, and then what you do is, in my opinion, you have someone swing through arcade hard, because they'll be watching you here on the hole most times. But better teams will be holding the door instead of the hole, because you can long arm the bomb. Now, podcast crew going for 3-2 split, going with the saber coming out again, and Saint Sam really going to be the only line of defense that's going to matter here for the Vultures, if he can stop that storage push in the freezer or not.
He's got a KR, he's got a Molotov, he's got the equipment. If any equipment, that would be the equipment you need to deal with freezer right now. You got the barbed wire in there north. Dad actually is carrying a late barb. No, he's listening. He's gonna put it down. That barb might have gone somewhere else if they weren't gonna push a storefront, but there's no doubt about that. The main issue here is that Gundam is now trapped this round. He cannot peek. He's got a knack, and he's actually gonna peek and
Get away.
Work is already deep on bomb here. Sam and Dad doing just roundabout in freezer. One pick already. Actually, whoa no! Smith's gonna frag his own team. Worst goes down on bomb, and Dad's gonna swing closer to Gruber. Smith is actually gonna get the trade there. Sam needs to find Smith. He does. 2v2 situation. Gundam now up against a DL12 at point blank. That's 2 DLs walking around to your storefront. It is Sam in a 1v2 situation. He's left to clutch again. I mean, they both have DLs. He doesn't know that. He's gonna push them off a bomb, but he has to get in close, and that's exactly what they want right now. Dorks can get really, really far in that bomb defusal. Sam's gonna find the pick. This is a 1v1 situation. He has a health advantage. He is against a DL. He has to play from far, but he has South storefront control now. Jamerson only has a DL12. The moment he gets in 2 squares now, even maybe just 3 or 4. No, Sam's gonna let him get on bomb! He doesn't play the head beak. Oh, just a brutal, just ring around the rosy there behind Fridges. I mean, that was really close. The Vultures did a really good job that round, even though it didn't quite pan out. 7-3 for the C-Store podcast.
Yeah, Dork and Jamerson there playing the ultimate duo. Jamerson playing the long games, ultimately going through freezer unopposed, but Sam made a lot of good decisions there, but ultimately holding down, particularly holding down by the breach, was not the right call in my opinion. Not only can you get pinged from UAV if you're so unlucky, as I often am, but also you are denied so much of that angle just because of how the bomb is angled. And that really stellar play from Jamerson there, touching the barb. You see Sam immediately shift his attention there, and then running and getting the final few percent that he needs to win the game for the C-Store podcast.
That's right. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what Rivals is all about, right? I mean, these players are all solid, but they're all learning. It's a learning experience. They're playing together as a team, a lot of call-outs happening and whatnot. So for me, I just see the potential of these players. Like, I see players like Sam, and I go, okay, he knows mistake there is easy to identify, but look how well he played throughout the rest of that game. So I can see him definitely being better. And that's not because he's my friend. Some people know he's my friend. I brought him into this community, but individually as a player, I think he could definitely go far. I think Vultures as a team is starting to figure out where they're at and how to play together, and we're seeing that in fruition. It's kind of cool watching that unfold before our eyes. Same with the C-Store podcast. I mean, like, who'd have thunk, right? Out of nowhere, they show up. They got their logo done and everything. They're taking it serious. They bring in Smith. That's a lot of fun for sure. So
absolutely, I do want to point out too, on the point of Rivals, these are players with not a lot of games playing very well. I'm going to count Smith as the outlier because it's Smith as well as Sam. You know, we do know Kino used to be a DPL player for Rats. He has 891 games, but everyone else on Vultures has basically 300 to 500 games. And then the C-Store podcast, 122, 342, 225, 462 on Jamerson. These are not players who have like grinded. These are players who are grinding, but these are not players who have been grinding and grinding and grinding to 1,000 games. They don't have that.
Even on Vultures, right? I don't know if you said, but I mean, players like Gundam Soul, level 300, playing pretty well. I mean, he was only level like 180 or so just a couple of weeks ago. So, I mean, they're on the grind now, but this is like pretty brand new for them, which is great to see. I mean, we want to see Rivals be the place where players who don't have the tremendous amount of experience can sit there and play with a team and just grind out the game together in an environment that isn't casual, right? Where they're actually learning, they're actually cooperating and learning about the game at a much higher level. So, really good to see that.
It's so fascinating to see, particularly you know, I've had the pleasure of getting to know Jamerson from the C-Store podcast. Great guy. Same with Dork. When I was actually on with them, it was a great time. You can tell these are two guys who really love the game, and that goes from them starting the podcast to them now being a rivals team. Big shout out to them, and also becoming a home for Smith after Smith had to unfortunately leave Upper League.
Yeah, I'm happy to see him playing with these guys. That seems like the right place to be for Smith. I'm sure it's a lot of fun with those guys. Yeah, we'll be heading into our second of the best of two rivals match momentarily. It looks like they're taking a quick break or something.
Makes sense. I mean, we have to remember we just now are getting best of twos in rivals. Last season it was a best
Yeah.
of one for rivals, and even for DPL players, it was just a best of two. So we're really stepping it up here for season 3. A lot more game time needed.
Oh, definitely. I think it does make the game more competitive. It makes it more interesting for sure. I mean,
Well,
best of one,
Rev,
I don't think was. Yeah, please.
best of one, yes, but also, I mean, we're talking about an hour-long game generally. So this is
Yeah.
where we do see fatigue really start to set in because best of
Yeah.
twos were long. Best of threes are sometimes unbearably long.
Grueling, maybe sometimes. I
Um,
mean, those can be a slog near the end, especially if you're a little bit behind and you're just looking for that like last round to be like a tie or something. I mean, that can be pretty hard to deal with. There is certainly a meta game to gaming, right? I mean, there is a lot of psychological and physical stuff happening on top of just playing the game. And I know we're talking about DPL rivals, but it's the same deal. It's the same everywhere.
I mean, best of two. I mean, that's 2 hours of straight gameplay, of straight stressful gameplay. You know, playing competitive is very different than just stomping out some ranked with your friends, playing some casuals. This is a different environment. And I understand that there is a distinction between rivals and upper league, but these are both very competitive leagues. Rivals looking very strong, particularly right now with teams like Kura, um,
Kura and Neo, super
Neo in
strong
my
teams
opinion, yeah, Neo in my opinion is probably one of the strongest teams in the game right
in
now.
the game. Period. Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem. I don't think anyone has any problem saying that. We're definitely going to be seeing them in the Due Process League next season. I think, unless something tremendously weird happens, but otherwise, I don't think anyone has a doubt in their mind that that will be happening. On the
Hmm.
topic of like burnout and whatnot, I'm actually curious about something. Maybe I can get your thoughts on this, but if you'll notice in the Due Process League future development, at least in the Trello, I think there's a card somewhere in there that says that they will be reducing downtime in the game. Can you imagine this game with no loading screens and you're just planning, shooting, nothing in between? I wonder how much of an effect that will have on the players themselves on being able to
Hmm.
play a best of three at that pace.
Now, this is what I fear because I feel like, at least when I see a lot of those critiques coming out from newer players, they're talking about the planning phase. I think the planning phase is the right amount of time because it's fast if you're playing. I understand it might not be fast for some of the casual players, but as a competitive DPL player, coming up with a plan like that and talking about all the things you can do with your team that's a good amount of time to be able to do that. Now, downtime in terms of loading screens, I can't wait for that. Oh my god,
Yeah,
please.
it's gonna be awesome.
The loading screens are fun, but I mean, you are really just waiting to play so much of the time and can actually inadvertently put you on ice sometimes. You're coming out of a hot round, it's like, okay, let's go, next. Games like I come from Counter Strike, you're already next, you're going, you're still good, you know what you're gonna do. But a 15 to 30-second break in that is really, really disruptive, particularly because under stress, you perceive time as so much longer or shorter. And generally,
Hmm.
when you're not doing anything, it feels so much longer. At least that's my experience, not only being a musician, but also playing the game.
Wow, yeah, that's really good insight. I think you're on point on a lot of that. Uh, I'm excited too. I'm just imagining how much faster a best of three will take, and how much easier that'll be for us to actually run production for some of these streams, because it'll
Yes.
be so much less time. We're actually heading into the next game. It's loading up now.
What are you expecting from this next game, Revenant? I mean, I think I have my thoughts, but you're the analysis man. You're going to be sitting on the analyst desk all the time.
Hmm. Well, I hope not all the time, but to begin, yeah, sure.
it's
I don't know if I can commit 100%
just
every week,
you.
but
It's just you.
oh no. Well, what I'm looking for here is, I mean, what were the main issues in the gameplay that we just saw? Let's see if they work on them. That's how I always think about it. So, Vultures, they had a lot of cool strategies. They played pretty cohesively. They were on the same page, but they were a little slow. Their attacks took a little bit of time to set up and do. I think they could improve their speed a little bit and maintain momentum throughout the round. I think for C-Store Podcast, they have a little bit too much reliance on Smith playing a power position. I want to see everyone else kind of playing off of Smith and not next to Smith, you know? I'm seeing a lot of Smith taking control of one section of the map, and it might be Smitty Snipes, but he's still performing pretty well. Have you loaded into the game, by the way?
Yes, I have, and we are looking at a factory map, but I do want to hammer some of that points home that you were just bringing up. Now, I agree with that 100%. I feel like right now, the podcast crew, you can kind of see the fact that a lot of them are fresher players. I'll use that in quotations. Because it feels like a lot of them are really playing meat shields and call out bots for Smith. Not to deny that they're playing well, but just in the way that they're approaching the game, that's what it seems to be. Is like, okay, Smith's going to play in the center of the map. Everyone else is going to play wherever, and to either tank bullets and do damage so Smith can do his thing, or to give callouts to Smith. Now, Vultures, I would agree, they're suffering a little bit from that momentum syndrome, not knowing when to just we go now, and really kind of waiting like we saw in that kill house. That was really awkward. Now, podcast crew going for an aggressive fan take with the splits into storage, almost exactly the opposite of the plan Vultures have called out, and that could be devastating for them. I'm not so sure how they're going to handle this. 4 people sitting on dock just doesn't seem like a good use of manpower to me.
Well, as soon as I load into this game, I'll definitely offer my analysis. But
either way, we're getting into it.
Yeah.
We do see Senpai bringing out the Saber. That's not going on Smith. Smith bringing the AP and a frag grenade. This is going to be interesting. We're seeing a little bit more of a traditional setup as the podcast crew gets into the door here. Actually going a 4-1 split, taking some fights. Gundam Soul shooting into the smoke. Smith's already through. Oh no, Smith gets the fan, goes down to Pop-Tart. Kino bringing out shots with the Ingmar. Pop-Tart playing in such a strong position. Gundam Soul gets Jamerson. Worst gets Dad. Pop-Tart takes out Worst and then gets traded by Senpai. Senpai on the Saber looking for Gundam. Oh, Dork's gone. It's just Senpai with the Saber and against basically 3 full health defenders all in the same place, so that could be a scary place to be. Senpai looking to try and get out of the fan. He does have a flash. He has the tools to actually handle this. He's not that low on health. Defenders here taking up some very good positions. We're seeing Saint Sam hide. Really great call from him. Has Molly on himself. Kino using the pixel peek here available to him on the forklift as well.
Yeah. I'm now in and I'm looking at, is that Jamerson sitting in the middle of Pipeworks, or am I seeing something crazy here?
No, you're seeing something a little weird, but yes, Jamerson actually fell in the middle of Pipeworks, more or less. Now we do see Senpai cowering in the back for the next 30 seconds. Just to run you through what happened in that round, Revenant. We got a smoke here, 4-man push, ultimately not able to work. Vultures holding strong. Their hold actually really worked so effectively against them. Dad with the big play, swooping up here, getting some great damage and kills. I mean, really fixing the issues we saw. Much more aggressive play style, as well as taking the tempo where they needed to, and just waiting things out. I mean, fantastic play there from Vultures.
So that's a saved Saber, and I imagine that was a green push then.
It was an entirely green push. I'm not sure if I can't remember if Smith threw the frag. So much happened there in the course of a few seconds.
I'm sorry I missed out. That's pretty cool. I mean, that puts, of course, a point on the board for Vultures, but the Saber's still in play, and that can be the deciding factor on the next maps up. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, for sure. In terms of the utility, I imagine they're down a frag and not much else, though. So that's pretty good
smoke, for quite a few flashes. The flash placement from podcast crew there wasn't the strongest, but Senpai is able to save not only the Saber, but also a flash going back from that. And also, I think the green take was a little too aggressive. Smith was able to get the fan, but ultimately died to Pop-Tart, who I believe got a lot of damage, or actually a full other pick, getting 2 before he was traded out.
Okay, well, we're looking at a C-Store now, and this is actually a pretty interesting C-Store. It has the non-flat storefronts. There's a lot of opportunities for people playing cover behind those, especially towards tellers and freezer. You have a shed that goes straight into power, which is tempting, but it's more tempting than a shed that gives you power. A storefront bomb.
Yes.
A wall charge going on storefront. So we'll likely be seeing that here. I don't think the play is anything other than that, but you could see shed being used in creative ways. I'm a huge fan of shotgunning open both of the shed doors, having my AP player just watching bathroom here. He could be watching up through office, then swapping and watching freezer. He could be
Hmm.
checking all these angles, making sure that he can't rotate out. On at the same time, you could have a guy playing down here at the red door and actually shooting into it. But it looks like they want to bring a double charge here and open up freezer. I don't think that freezer is actually that crucial in this type of map's hold, but I could
I
be
would
wrong.
agree
I've
with
been
you.
wrong before.
No, I would 100% agree with you there, and here's why. Because Freezer doesn't offer you access to what's actually dangerous about this map. And in my opinion, what is actually dangerous is right here, fridges.
Yes.
This is the most deadly place on the entire map. Now, while I can understand possibly maybe wanting to go Freezer into getting that shed power, coupling that with a teller hold, and I think really what they're doing here is maybe putting, yeah, they're marking it out now. One person's going freezer,
Hmm.
four people going through that hole. Saber's job here is to really just hold that arcade because, again, that's very scary. That's a quick peek out and back in. And if you don't have someone holding that, it's going to be frustrating. Now, Vultures have a really good setup to actually counter this because they are planning on the double door while they're only going to be slightly off. Gundam Soul already has the molly prepped right for this corner. And Saint Sam, as we know, great player,
But
sitting in Teller.
but look, they it seems like they've forgotten the barbed wire. There's no barb here in storefront on either side. This is going to be free reign for C Store Podcast to just push arcade. They have shotguns and Allegros. I don't think their DPS is going to be enough to deal with a full push here after that Molotov is done. This is going to come down to how much damage Sam can do at Tellers if they decide to push that open. Smith has double flash. He's about to take freezer. I think he's up against.
Oh,
Wow. Okay, finds a long angle right into Kino immediately in the middle of storefront through the freezer glass, and another pick coming out. Oh no! Another pick coming out from the Saber all the way into arcade on Pop Tart, but at the same time, the Molotov actually dealing with Dork of Doom right away. Sam now has to make a big play here, I think, which looks like he's not going to deal any damage there into Jamerson, who now has shutters open. That's full free reign for Senpai. And Smith's going to actually just ignore Freezer and take out Gundam Soldier behind Bridges. He's going to walk right past him and get picked off. Wow, Smith not identifying that Gundam was there. This is a complete turnaround immediately just by way of Gundam dealing with Smith and Sam finding the kill on Jamerson. He had the knack. He had the appropriate range to deal with that. It's now up to Worst. Gundam's going to find another pick on Worst. This is putting a huge amount of pressure on a Senpai who just can't identify the angles. He cannot spot out Dad. He just looks away as Dad pushes into storefront. Sam gets the shutters down as well. This is not ideal for him. Probably going to have to save this round again. There's no way he can deal with a fully barbed out Tellers being held by Sam. You've got three guys alive. That's another round lost and the Sabres still being
and
saved.
also two charges going down, very unfortunate, but
Yeah.
it's more embarrassing to be a C-Store podcast and losing a C-Store round. Now, I kind of want to break down what I think went wrong there.
Please.
You don't have to take tellers. Tellers is not something you need to touch. I understand it's tempting, the button's tempting. That's not what the plan should have. The plan should have been to send three people into fridges, and I think that's really where it fell apart. I don't think the plan in and of itself was inherently wrong. I think the secondary objective that they identified as valuable was not actually as valuable as they thought it was.
Here's an opportunity to use two charges there. You take the door charge through the hole and put it on Teller's door, and you use it to blow Barb, kill anyone who's back there. It's an instant take. There's no waiting for a grenade fuse. You're just door charge on, step back, pop it, and you're into Tellers. That's not to say that you're wrong. I do think that Tellers is not the objective, but if you were going to take Tellers and you wanted to use two charges, you'd take it with the charge and not put a charge into Freezer. I don't think Freezer's not a threat there. You can get through storefront immediately. A couple flashes, fridges, and arcade, and you're in, and you've taken that backside. And it puts Smith in a situation where he had to do that on his own, and it didn't pan out.
And I want to build off what you said there is if you do that plan, what also that allows you to do is it's like, okay, my Saber's holding all that. I don't need to watch that door. I long arm the barm away from the angle that is provided to them through that teller door. And if they push out, my Saber's got it. He's not only doing that, he's also watching arcade. And then that means you have four people or three to dedicate to taking freezer and fridges. Really what we like to see on C-Stores is a blooming out and just controlling side immediately, using all your flashes, and then just holding angles and not letting the defenders get back on site.
So check this out. Right away, we're looking at interesting barb placement. It looks like the Vulture guys, because they only brought one barb in that last round, they're going to have a lot of flexibility here. You're going to see default barbs, one in observation, one in Northwest Ruins, maybe a second one in Ruins. They're going to double down on the ramp side at the stairs. Maybe two we're going to see in pit. This is going to be a lot of barb coverage in the places that they're not going to have to be playing. That could end up being really, really powerful. I mean, they did just win a C-store that they effectively ecoed. That's going to be a huge boon for them in this round where they'll have a ton of flexibility for their utility. Importantly to point out, though, the C-store guys still have the Saber. They still have jungle because they can get the castle open with a door charge. It's not hard to take castle here. This is going to come down, I think. How are they going to play observation? And are they going to retake castle? If you don't retake castle, you're playing jungle and you're playing ratty and you're playing long angles. You're playing a good mix of stuff. But if the Saber can get an initial couple picks, then it can fall apart really quickly. So this is still a pretty easy win, even if that last round was a little bit rough for the C-Store guys. They still have all the right tools to take jungle, no problem.
And they do, but beyond that, it's also, I think what this will really come down to is if they are able to deny the C-Store podcast this upper portion of castle, because you can, which I'm actually disappointed to see no one holding that barb long, because that's really what makes that barb so strong. Pop-Tart might actually get the fright of his life here.
Yeah, it looks like this is going to be pretty crazy here in a second. He has Flare, he's got Molly. His Molly's going to come out. They're actually going to waste a flash on it. Oh, but two Mollies come out, so maybe a worthwhile trade. This is going to... Oh, Kino has a third Molly. He's going to actually fire a shot and not land anything. No damage dealt to either team yet, but Kino does have the next Molly. They're going to wait it out as well. That's a lot of time burnt so far, but in the meantime, they're going to find a frag getting placed into observation to clear out that barb. So the moment that they start pushing Sam here, he's all alone, and he's got barbs in pit. I don't know if this is a worthwhile hold anymore for Sam to be playing observation, but we'll see how it pans out. It'll all depend on how much damage Kino and Popdare can do here. A shot comes up, but again, no damage. They need to get drawbridge down. Popdare's going to play for the pick, and he does! He finds Smith! A perfect trade coming out. 4v4, and extra damage was dealt. Two attackers. So C-Store down a little bit of health, still in good position. Sam just barely finding his way out from the spray from Jamerson. Jamerson not finding his shots. I mean, it is a Black Tower. I'm not a big fan of the Black Tower.
Yes.
That gun can be a little inconsistent. No disrespect to Jamerson for not getting that pick. But yeah, Kino, wow. He's going to try and get another shot up into Senpai, who now has the Saber placed perfectly up on the battlement. Kino's going to be baiting and buying time. In the meantime, though, Senpai is going to get a pick on Sam, who was playing up at the barbed wire in Northwest Ruins. 3 versus 4 scenario. Like I said, totally winnable for Siege. Wow, but Kino's going to find the pick on their Saber. Jamerson's going to open up the drawbridge now, but there is a barb there. No time left. Zombie, this is a very big back and forth. I mean, this could be anyone's game still. 10 seconds left to deal with Dad, and the flash comes out great.
Yeah, worse doesn't
It's
know
up to
where he
Gundam,
is.
but Gundam's down. He didn't find Dad. No, but Dad couldn't find Jamerson either. Oh no! I mean, they did find a way to win after all of that.
I mean, that's unfortunate.
Crazy.
That was just a lack of communication there. We know Kino goes down. We're still pushing that and actually taking that fight that he doesn't need to take because there's no one there. Jumping down in there into the ruins water and then looking there. Dad ultimately almost able to make the hero play, but not connecting with the person he needs to.
Look at what happened to Gundam there. Dad was flashed and Gundam said, I need to save my friend. You don't need to do that in every situation. Sometimes you gotta concede that Dad's in a 1v3 situation. You let weirder to make that call because they couldn't find Dad in the bushes at the rocks, but I think if you're one guy on bomb and you've won because they don't have enough time.
Absolutely.
But that was a tricky call to make there for sure. 1-2 though. I mean, this is still really good for Vultures, who managed to just keep finding a way to win each round here. We're back on this factory now, Pegasus Hour, which has a no man's land and a pipeworks and a pretty standard office, but it's an office that does bleed into the dock, so there's a lot of more close range dynamics to this map. It's a much more mid-range map. There are a lot of long angles to be playing, but you can certainly play this map with a lot more control. You can use smokes if you're on attack, or on defense you can set up surprise flanks, and you can also create really powerful, more aggressive barbed wires on this map to deal with things like storage or things like dock. So we'll see how they play this out. Could be any type of strategy here.
Yeah, I'm really hoping to see something creative come out from Vultures because we saw something sort of half baked, in my opinion, come out from podcasts. It almost worked, but it really didn't. But there looks like the podcast crew's defense is actually be much stronger. Great barb here. I love barbs like this that we see in Office because not only is
Mhm.
it contesting this red door angle, but it's also contesting the store swing, the stair swing. Pardon me.
Yes.
And as well, we do see really interesting barb coming out from Spit up here. Why do you place it further back like that? And I love this because putting the barb here really generates very little value for the team outside of long angles. How do you generate more value from that? You move it further down into the place where there's actually angles. So they're not being slowed when they're taking the long fights, which wouldn't really matter anyway. Where they are
Mhm.
being slowed and where it is going to matter is in those closer fights. Now, it's a little bit of half and half, which is great because that also denies them sort of steeper angles here when they try to clear that. So really great bar placement there from Smith, and I would highly encourage people to consider those things when they are playing the game.
Absolutely. That's really well explained. And the only downside I can even think of for something like that, which I don't think is going to play here. Well, let's watch Smith. Smith's actually going to get shot with a saber and not finding any damage on Senpai. So Smith down to 50 HP. The only downside I was going to say is that if Smith played back there in storage and they did push it, and if Fan got open at the same time, he'd have to walk through that barb in the open. So that is the only danger. But he knows that. He knows ahead of time to get out of there way before they ever breach. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
be a fan opener here. Wow, 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 wow.
Kino,
That's not what you want to be doing in this situation. I mean, damage gets dealt to Jamerson a significant amount as well, but just look at
worse.
the damage that they deal to themselves in that situation. Taking it as a teammate dad. I mean, this looks really rough now. Worst. Finds a
Oh
kill
man.
on Gundam. You've got low HP Kino, low HP Sam, who's been taking a fight inside storage. Pop Tarts with Sam. This is going to be down to how much Pop Tart can do here, but he needs to use his only flashbang. That was the last flash on a person to open up Toxic. At this point, you've got two guys in the trucks. You've got Allegros in office. You are taking a million angles. This is going to be, I think, uh, a lot of pressure on Kino at this point. Actually, he needs to find Jamerson, which I think he saw him. It looks like he did. If Kino can find a pick, he can start to open up the map, but he cannot swing out anywhere yet until Pop Tart isolates angles, and Pop Tart's going to get mopped. So they're all at 1 HP now. This looks like a save to me, if anything. I mean, Sam and Pop Tart should push out and try and get something done, but I think you need to save that saber.
Yeah, I think this is a Saber's good as gone right here. You want to keep that and
Or
leave it.
not shooting.
Oh,
Oh, wow, and Senpai's gonna find the pick. This is why you don't want to be pushing in together in this situations because I don't think there's any way. Oh no, Smith knows. He's probably calling his team that needs to walk around the outside. Smith is legging it. No, he knows he can't get there.
yeah, he can't get there. But also, I do want to point out what you can do with a barb like this is you can actually shortcut it by going around the corner. Just unfortunate, Dork wasn't able to hear them. Either didn't know that's what he heard, or that's something he should have been listening for. Because sometimes with calls and comms, it can get very um, cluttered, and so you can't
Yeah,
hear that. But that would have been a beautiful kill through smoke if he had just been listening for that, and then he knew exactly where to shoot. And that's the angle advantage I was talking about when trying to explain that thing. Because the corner that Dork's sitting in is just 10% uncleared space. And what's the most dangerous thing in a room is uncleared space. That's the most deadly thing you can come across.
absolutely. If you think that there might be an enemy there, you have to play as if there is one, and that's a lot of angles if you don't clear every corner. Then
Hmm.
this is going to be pretty rough to deal with without a saber. Thankfully, at least they don't. The defenders don't have a saber, so there is that. They didn't pick that up. Weird already. Look at C Store podcast. Two barbs getting placed in tellers, or at least
I
getting
think.
marked there. One of them's going to
Well,
get.
I will say though, I've had this issue where sometimes I'll do my barb icon and force spawn, so that could have
Oh,
been what would happen.
I see.
Now, I don't think you really need a saber for this map. I really don't, because if you want to do the most aggressive play, and oh, I hope
Yeah,
they don't do this shed. I'm gonna be so disappointed in Vultures if that's what they go for. But the reason for that is because, again, like you were saying, it doesn't generate much value. What I really want to see is a green take and a storefront take, because
yeah,
I want them to open up this storefront. I'm not expecting really someone in freezer, maybe one, kind of inconsequential, but really, again, this fridges is the most dangerous part of the map. So what I want to see is going through office and then taking advantage of these bathroom doors. We have to remember, bathroom and freezer doors are what the two kinds of doors we don't have to kick.
yes,
We can just open them. So this actually can look very daunting, but because it's a bathroom, this is a patch of the map you can zoom through. Now these exterior doors are locked. That's different, but interior bathroom and freezer doors, are completely openable to both sides. So what I'm really hoping to see is this blows at the same time, because this is a coordination thing you can do, is you can shoot open green door, and that's so hard to hear over the sound of a massive explosion going off. So you do that, go through here, maybe even ignore Dork of Doom, who's hiding in the stall, or hiding the magazine in the stall, and take the fight to Worst, who's going to be sitting in that fridges.
That's right. Looking at this map, you only have the one bathroom door, which is the one that goes into fridges itself. So they are going to have to deal with where Dork is. But oh my gosh, he's already in office and he just backs out right in time. They should be able to hear him and identify that there is a guy in bathroom. Wall charge comes out at fridges, though, which is kind of strange, but look at where Dork is. Dork is about to wipe the floor here. Yep, Kino's down. Sam is deep in.
Oh,
Worst is just hiding. Dork's going to get picked off by his own buddy. Sam needs to play a close angle here. He needs to react. He's not going to react to the arcade angle. Dad now just playing Ring on the Rosie with Smith. Smith's going to wipe him out. What a weird round. Like you said, I mean, just play the fundamentals, guys. Storefront bomb, breach the storefront. If you want to push green, push green. You have absolute freedom to do that. But there's no reason to go all in, 5-man push. I keep seeing that from the Vultures, where they're sending 5 in one spot, or even just too many in one spot, in the cases where they do split. And it just isn't working out for them.
Absolutely, and it's confounding to me that they didn't either pre-fire that bathroom door, because I think that's something, either that space they should have taken ownership of, or
before the
it's
wall
space
charge
they should have pre-fired. Yeah, before that, because particularly with a place like that, it's like, okay, we played here, it worked for us. I'm pretty sure they're gonna play there, unless you do some crazy spot that's like, oh my god, no team has ever thought of this, and that's not what that was. Not to disparage the Vultures at all. That was not some crazy spot that was like, oh my god, they did this. That was something they should have checked. And ultimately, while Dork did go down to his teammate, it through the round, it is such a hitch for the Vultures.
And realistically as well, if you open that wall with a wall charge, you have to clear your left and your right. You didn't open into a corner. So you're now watching 2 angles with tons of depth and variations through freezer, through tellers, through bomb, through the storefront shelves. A million things. It's sensory overload of the things you have to deal with all of a sudden, as well as leaving the flank open to you in bathroom, north and south, from office and inside storefront. That's just a lot of stuff to deal with. Keep it simple, guys. The best plans are not the plans that catch someone off guard. They're the plans where the rest of your team, as a unit of 5 people, can just follow through. And if you want to study Nemesis games, you're going to see that I'm right about that. Nemesis doesn't do anything too crazy. They're doing stuff that's simple, and it works, and everyone can follow through. But looking at this plan, please walk me through this barbed wire plan.
Well, first, I do want to say is I want to shout out to Nemesis. Where they do the wacky thing is in scrims, because you want to find out what works, because you might discover and stumble upon something that's like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. Now, C-Store Podcast here knows that they don't have a charge, so they're gonna devote all their barb here. I actually don't like that.
No.
Because again, I think that's horrible. They need to space this out. Does it look attractive? That's not the way to do it. Because if this nade here is gonna have the possibility to clear 4 of these barbs.
That's right.
If it lands right.
The nade. They've already decided that they're gonna bring a nade for that spot. So
yeah. And also, Dork of Doom playing very, very aggressive. Hopefully he's finds something, because I don't think they're going to.
Let's see it happen. Get the ace, Dork. Let's go. Let's
do the run out.
Just do the run out.
Be a man. Oh, they see him. They see
him. He's out of there. And he's gone. He's been done.
There's a Windows, Dork. You have to do the door yourself.
Yeah. I don't think Dork remembered the windows, but well played to Vultures for at least checking the windows. Yeah, they're there to use, I suppose.
Yeah, fair.
Interesting smoke coming out. Kino actually getting a lot of damage in right away onto Jamerson as well, who's actually at 75 health now. They have a lot of flashes. They've got a molly on the ground. Smith has the window. He actually has a stolen frag, don't forget, so he's going to frag that barb himself once they're in. So as soon as Worst and Jamerson are done, and Senpai is making the calls from...
Oh no, the frag. Oh no.
Oh, well, okay, there's another pick. You've got the attackers down a little bit of health. I mean, these mollies are really good. I think that was a throw from Worst there. I'm not sure.
No, the molly throws from Worst, yes.
Yeah, that was a really cool deep molly there on both sides, pushing them backwards with the first one. And there's the frag, I think. Nope, it wasn't.
No, both of them went out.
Yeah. Neither of them connected. Sam now and Pop-Tart pushing an observation. No flashes, but Smith's going to play aggro with the mop and see what happens. Should be a pretty easy shot. There it is on Sam. Beautiful shot. Senpai has to follow through with Pop-Tart, but Pop-Tart's scared. Dad already on point. Smith needs to get all the way up in the battle. Dad, you need to watch battlements right now. Smith actually, that's really cool. Smith ran past the first one so that he had to play a 50-50 between one of these two. Really, really smart play there to make Dad mess up, perhaps. You've got time, Dad. They're all 1 HP. Just keep peppering them. Tap the bomb. He can do this, I think. He's got 62% on the bomb already.
He can absolutely.
A few seconds left, though.
Oh, now you can hold it.
No. Senpai is going to get the pick on him. He
now,
almost clutched that. That was really cool to watch.
Well, you know what really went wrong there is Pit does a lot more than just eat bodies if you fall into it. It also eats your nades. Yeah. So there, we saw Kino throw the nade. It lands here, it bounces off, and it falls in the pit. We saw Smith throw the nade, bounces off, falls in the pit. It was just really unfortunate all around.
That was pretty funny. I did not notice Smith's throw. I only saw the first one, and that's pretty rough. I mean, generally you want to throw nades and the longest surface in front of you so that if it does bounce a little bit, at least you're clear there. The radius is actually a lot bigger than I think people thought. That seemed like they were throwing it a little too deep. You definitely clear a lot of that barb with a frag right in the middle. So
I think it landed perfectly the first time, but I think people forget that frag grenades in this game do bounce. And it was like skipping rocks, and it just went over the side. It's unfortunate.
Well, C-Store Podcast now took 4 rounds in a row, putting them in a 4-2 scenario against the Team Vultures, which means that Vultures right now that they're on attack, needs to play with a lot of momentum and keep it going. And this is starting with a kill house where I think they can pull that off. It's a pretty straightforward kill house. It's a simple, clean push if they focus on hallway and reception. I think they could do a lot here with backstage. It's going to take a lot of effort from C-Store Podcast to deplete their reserves, and it's going to be a lot of wall bangs, I bet, this round.
Absolutely, and it looks like Vultures are actually wanting to go for a green play, which I don't think is the call. This is not the map for that, particularly when you're doing this. Hall is such just wall bang heaven, because also I want to point out we did talk about earlier about wall bang proof cover. Yep. That's none of this. You can't stand here. They're still going to hit you. Even if you stand here, you're still vulnerable to wall bangs. It's all defender based, because these walls are all meant to be held close, and just it's not going to work out for them. I will say that the C-Store Podcast, and I'm assuming it was Smith, drew out actually my favorite plan on this, where you take a reception, go through the screen door, and actually wall charge out of office into that bar, because what that does is coupling that with someone in hallway here, preferably putting pressure on in 2 positions, not only wall banging the stage as well as going backstage. You gain a lot of ground, in my opinion, with this bar, as well as essentially what you want to do is have one individual bound out into bomb, one on bar. Bar is designed to take this fight, and bomb is designed to take those fights, as well as hopefully someone here. But I'm not sure we're going to see that.
That's a really cool play if they did that here. They're gonna send Dad again around the north, it looks like, going through reception, I think. But Smith's actually got a mop playing on reception. He's gonna be backing up into hallway. Wow, Smith gets smoked out. Really awesome to see them using exterior smokes the way they're doing. Sam's gonna get the door open. It's gonna be a 5-man take now from reception. Yep, pretty clean. Senpai has the knack. He's ready to shoot. A ton of damage goes in, clearing out not just Gundam, but nearly all of Sam's HP. That is why you use the frag on that bar. This is just a shower of GAT bullets now pouring into that line of sight. No one can contest it. Sam actually goes in to aggressively peek again with the PK, just to get some damage back in, but that's a pretty scary spot to be in. As soon as they get down to the south side here, they're going to have to go through an auto shotgun. Sam's going to have to get door open, and the moment he does, Senpai is going to pick him off as well. Senpai just carrying this round immediately. Now Smith landing a perfect shot onto Kino. And there it is, just the...
Why are you pushing through the bullets, Dad?
Oh no, just tremendous amounts of damage dealt by all the wall bangs. Like I said, wall bang heaven if you push that hallway, like you also pointed to. 2 versus 4 scenario. No flashes. Good luck, Pop-Tart. You've got a black tar. He does get the pick on worst, but there's a flank from Jamerson now. With the KR, that's going to be a pick on the Dad. You've got an auto shotgun flanking into Pop-Tart. It's a little bit long range, but he's going to get the pick anyway. Holy smokes. I mean, this barb to me is the no-brainer barb. You always play off of it. You use whatever you can to blast through there. If you're going to take hallway, you got to clear that barb. Or you got to,
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, like you said, you don't take hallway.
And even beyond that, what I was really disappointed to see from Vultures there is the bunching up. I understand liking your teammates, but you don't need to be conjoined at the hip. You don't
Yeah.
need to be sitting on top of each other at all times because that makes wall bangs in that particular scenario even more devastating. While we didn't see it here, that could have been a three-man spray down with the neck from Senpai, even though he had died earlier in the round.
Yep. That was, I mean, impressive anyway. Even just to see how much a Nat can do with its very thick penetration. Just to be clear, when I say that, you have no effect with it with very thick penetration when you're going through one kill house wall. The damage there and why that was so impactful was that very thick means you can go through an enemy player into another player, and that's
And
why you
still
don't
do
want to
full
stack up.
damage, correct?
You'll be doing I think full damage, yeah.
Yeah, through one and then through two, you still would be going through. Because now I understand that the knack is an anime reference, but with the penetration, because there are not different values for object penetration and player penetration, they had to give the knack the high, very thick pen to do what they wanted to do, which was essentially go directly through players.
Players are effectively just a thick wall, and while there aren't very many objects that fulfill the category of thick and not very thick, red doors are exactly thick. They have a value of, let's just call it 10. We'll say it's a value of 10. That means a knack has a value of 15. It's got a ton extra penetration power, so if you're going through a kill house wall, which is only a couple, and through a thick object, whether it's a player or a red door or something, that's going to be dealing pretty much. Well, I think you'll be dealing half damage at that point, but there's still a lot of damage coming through the knack. So
Hmm. And that's thick. Jamerson is thick with two C's, but now we're getting into the round anyway. This is a really fascinating setup. We do see being drawn out by vultures that they're wary for. I do see the C-Store podcast is very concerned about this servers push. I like it. I'm not too sure that I think it's the
yeah,
best play in the world.
I
Just
don't see
because you
it.
get, I here's why I like it because you can generate a lot of value off of having a single person watching this angle deep because you can't get peeked from pipes, and generally they're gonna have to swing into you. Now you're gonna have to couple that with something else. Generally, I would assume a green take. Um, but
I just don't see what the purpose of this second barb here. If you move that barb down to, let's say, here in Pipeworks or down
that'd be much
here,
better, I would
then
agree.
boom, you can deal with that from tanks, and you don't have to play super close like Worst is being forced to play. And he's playing that with an Ingmar. So while
Yeah,
they are
that's
going to
not where
push
you
this
want
with
that.
three, I mean, what are you going to do, right? Ingmar versus three players here. We'll see how it plays out. You got double Ingmar, actually. Gundam's sneaking on in.
And they're only going to be able to flash close, so a one flash is going to effectively ruin this crossfire that Dork and Worst have set up.
They need to identify what watches this barbed wire, realize it's immediately in front of them, it's right above them, flash it, and then swing in together. And you need to see Sam and Gundam doing that here if they want to deal with Dork and Worst. In the meantime, you have... Okay, they're going to peek dry. Gundam doesn't
No
flash for his
flash.
teammate, which will mean a trade, which is not ideal, but he is going to find the second pick with almost no damage taken to Gundam. So, honestly, he made the call. It worked out for him. I don't think it was the right one at the time. It did cost him sand, but he is going to come out on top here, as well as Dad finding a pick on Jamerson, leaving
Oh,
the attackers, leaving Vultures in a 4 versus 2 scenario. Mop does whiff shot, and Smith's going to pay for it. Senpai, last one alive, he's going to get picked up the tanks from the long angle towards storage.
huge plays. I think you might be getting a little too sentimental about Sam there. I think you're just. I know what you're saying, but I think the peak there actually worked because what should have happened actually is I think Sam could have done that peak dry, but ultimately I think Gundam should have been watching this angle a little higher than him because Sam was doing a crouch peak. Gundam could have shot over him into Dork of Doom. You could have done that dry. I don't think it was the right call necessarily to do it dry, but I can understand where the thinking was coming from. I just ultimately think the setup to do it dry correctly was not in place.
I just think if even if you get out of that with one flash, that flash is going tanks, and you have a lot of ground to cover because you're not going to get a flash in office. Office is going to shred you to pieces if there's someone up there, and you have to deal with a guy at tanks. So I just don't see how you come out of that without either an office take as well. I don't know. I'm not seeing it. It worked for them,
hmm
but I'd want to see
I
either like a smoke coming out to clear out the office angle, or something to deal with the tanks there. That just seemed like a lot of risk and way too much pressure on the guys at green door.
Yeah, I would agree. I think ultimately for the plan that was there, it worked, and I can understand why they did it. But if you were playing against a team that had a more standard, I should say, setup,
Sure.
um,
Yeah.
where the barb would have actually been on that angle, the flash wouldn't have done you any good there anyway, and would have been much better utilized on those close angles. Now, going to the Starlight Horn here, yes, we do see.
Amogus.
Yeah, thank you, Rev. Um, I haven't commented on it because I've been wanting to stay away from it, but why, damn it, do all of the C stores look like Among Us now?
I
All of
think
them.
I think they just tweaked the generation. What I've heard is that they have not designed any of them to look like Among Us, but what they've done, I think, is they've tweaked the generation to make sure that a tellers or a freezer always spawns in the middle like this, resulting in that perfect little headpiece that they always see there. In this case, it's a freezer, which is a little bit cooler, I think, because you have the bomb facing north, not south, not east, not west. You have it facing north, straight into freezer, which is right next to the red door at arcade, but more importantly, the green door at storage and bathroom. So
Mhm.
that's going to be pretty cool because you can get great control of that to deal with defenders that are in there. But the defenders can, if they can deal with storage properly and hold off bathroom, they could play from behind the pallet. They could play for retake from freezer. Again, you have office as well with nothing here. I mean, they've drawn a perfect line there. That's a pretty great Legros wall bang if I ever saw one to
It's
sit
a
in
perfect
office. It
one,
is.
and I think it's looks like they're actually gonna be doing that with the neck. Now, I don't
Look at the
like.
barb. Look at all the barb.
Oh man, that's a lot of
One,
barb.
two, three, four, five.
It's also not
A
down,
lot.
but more importantly than that, a lot of that's gonna not matter because they're opening it up, but they're also gonna be doing a wall charge into shed with the door into teller. Now,
Yeah.
I don't see the point in that. Teller is not a space you have to take here. Again, with a storefront bomb like this, all you really, in my opinion, need to hold is this freezer angle, which is generally put one in there, hold this angle, they can't swing on you, you're fine. Um, it's interesting creative plays coming out from Vultures. I just don't
Yeah.
necessarily think it's the
This one isn't
good
too
kind.
bad.
The
It's
No,
a
this one makes sense.
it's a 2-2-1 split where Tellers is practically free
Oh,
because you
Jamerson.
can control the power on your own. Actually, on a door charge that. Oh no, but Pop Tart's gonna get wasted by Smith's Molotov, and Jamerson now has an auto shotgun playing on the north end. Sam is gonna get shredded, pushing into that barbed wire. This is not good. They need to deal with Sam. Simple, flash, and go. They're not doing it. They're not committing.
Oh,
They
they're
need
running through. Dork, what are you doing?
Smith's gonna concede tellers, but not before Dork of Doom doesn't understand that and is gonna swing right in. Jamerson could go for the flank, but Kino is watching that, which is key right now for Vultures. They need to get it open. Smith is trying to get some shots in. He can try to contest, but there is a barbed wire there. Shutters is now open as well, but Gundam's gonna get picked off by Smith. And Smith's gonna get traded right back. 2v3 scenario, I still think it's winnable. 2v2, in fact, now with Dad getting the second pick this round, taking out both of the C-Store boys. In the same spot, actually, right in shed, leaving this to be a 2v2 against the C-Store podcast team, who have two players left in arcade and office, one of which was spotted out just now by Kino. One of them has rotated safely into Freezer. Dad needs to not flash that. He needs to deal with Freezer first. Freezer's the main threat here. Oh, but beautiful pick comes out. A great trade, though. Kino, in a 1v1 scenario, has the flash, could stick defuse, and play the head peek. Worst does have a Molotov. You need to start defusing. You have to always assume there's another Molotov.
Oh, he doesn't have the angle. He can stick it.
Beautiful shots
Oh,
coming out from
beautiful.
Kino, who's going to pick off Worst. A 3K from Kino, a 2K from Dead. Smith doing his best to control tellers, but, I mean, hey, it wasn't as clean as we hoped. It was weird to see the door charge come out, but you know what? It worked out.
I think also they did the wrong wall to do the door. They need to do the one close that gets you
Yeah.
even faster. But that's why I don't like this. Is essentially you're walking into a crossfire, in my opinion, because you can't clear storage. You don't want to clear storage. And Sam going from green is a smart idea, but you have to assume a green door on a C store is always going to be barbed,
Yeah,
at least to some extent.
that's right.
So very dodgy planning that ended up working out just because of better gun skill in that situation. But
And you know, they didn't crowd cover. What I like there is I think it was Dad who played from much further back, played away from Teller's Hole, and just didn't give them the close range. He knew it's
mhm.
C-Store, they have close range weapons, play the AP at max distance. An AP at the worst possible, most like ludicrous distance is better than a tub at the end of the day, obviously. So you need to make sure you are playing that from, even where it may be disadvantageous. In most scenarios, playing from way further back in C-Store will often get you a pick against weapons like the knack or the tub. So that was a good play from them in the end. And now it's time for revenge on this map that so brutally shredded them. I mean, they're going to probably pull off a lot of the same stuff. They're going to be using that default bar that we see in reception on the north end of club right here. What we're going to have to probably look at here is the fact that C-Store Podcast wants to go office kitchen and not hallway backstage. What do you think about that? What's the dynamic here? What's the advantage? What's the pros and cons of taking office?
Office is a better take in my opinion because it's not hallway. Um,
Right.
I don't know how else to say that. It feels so wrong to say, but that's really just the case. Like, why is it better? Because it's not hallway. There's nothing that objectively makes it a more interesting or more dynamic take or more worthwhile, besides the fact that you're just not gonna die like you should be in hall. Like if a team lets you take hall effectively, and they're not at 1 health or a lot of them aren't dead, you have failed your job as a defender. Um, Now, also what this does do is because we do see barbs coming out, we only see 2 barbs coming out from Vultures though.
3. Well, Sam's going to
Oh,
get, I
pardon
think
me,
there
3.
was going to be a barb heading up in reception, but Sam does have a barb. He's just in the corner. I'm not sure what he's up to.
Now,
Smith put a cross on him right there. Check that. Sam, you need to get out of there if you want to survive this round. I think he's heading over to reception right now.
he's placed in his barb, but I think a barb here would be more effective, particularly holding onto it reactively by falling out there and then holding from bar and stage, because getting onto this club bar is actually really what you want to do when you're taking from kitchen.
Right. Now, Dad's actually playing hyper aggressively into this barbed wire. Sam sprinting in with a Molotov that isn't really going to do anything. Sam needs to find a pick, and he will just simply not against a DL12 at that range. But Dad finding a lot of damage to the wall. Kino as well playing the Ingmar from north. I mean, this is looking pretty good for Vultures already in a 4v3 scenario with little bits of damage being dealt by Pop-Tart Gundam as well. Finds through the wall. Dad's going to find another pick on Dork of Doom. Now in a 4v2 scenario where Worst has to push into Dad, who has an auto shotgun, no flash in hand. You got to work with your team. There's a frag and a flash now on Senpai. They're going to have to deal with the situation tactfully, but maybe not. Senpai's out of there. Clacker's on hand. They got some flashes. They're out. They're saving.
Yeah, not a horrible plan there. I think also another thing I didn't get to when we were talking about the value of office is what actually essentially saved the round for C-Store Podcast there is, even though while they have lost, and I concede that, they didn't all die to auto shotty. Why? Because they all crowded in this corner of bulletproof cover.
You've got some exterior and as we see, there, that's right.
You get these exterior walls. Also, same in kitchen. Like you get down here in this area where Dad is, you're safe. You literally can't be shot at unless they run up on you. Now, great call to save actually from C-Store Podcast for a few reasons. Yes, they're getting clacker, but more importantly, they're saving 2 flashes and a frag. Yes. While I was hoping I would see one of them grab the DL, because in my opinion, the DL is the most, even above Saber, is the most worthwhile weapon on attacker side for a few reasons. Not only because the DL is stupid strong, but also because it's a utility gun. But yeah, I think it was ultimately just collapsed well. I'm not sure what Sam was doing there with that crazy run out. I know Sam's great, but that's a little too big of an ego to have into running into a full team.
Knowing Sam, I don't think that was an ego play. I think that was his job was probably in flux. I mean, I think initially they wanted him to play reception, but
yeah, Dad actually trades the auto shotty for the KR.
Interesting. That's not terribly uncommon considering it's the KR and players really love that gun, but it is a little weird, I guess, because of the map rotation that we have. And
yeah, that's more why I'm feeling. Drum. Yeah, that's what I'm feeling. Is I didn't think he shot a whole lot. That could just be me miscounting. Because on that C-Store, the auto shotty is going to be invaluable.
I think he used an entire drum, but I would agree that I don't think he used the second drum, but I'm not sure where that drum is, so I can't comment. Speaking to the power of the KR in the next round, I mean, they could still use it in some pretty important positions, and honestly, I mean, what are they working with here? What kind of areas would they want to be playing the auto anyway? Once you've dealt with on the C-Store anyway, once you've dealt with the freezer room, I mean, a lot of those long angles open up, and maybe they're just afraid they wouldn't be able to do a retake with something like that, whereas a KR might get them more value here. They might also just be conceding the C-Store round and taking all their best stuff into the factory to try and get their round 6 here. I would bet on that, actually.
Yeah, I'm sure that's probably what was called. It just makes it's a little confounding to me. Surprising we're actually seeing the C-Store podcast go for the same play. Um,
Wow.
it makes sense. I can see why. I see the value and power here is particularly because you have such an open um tanks, but I don't know. I don't like it. I'm not 100% for it. I think it can work. It has worked. I like it a lot more if it's coupled with a secondary charge as well. In
Hmm.
this case, I would really like to see an office take because you can get some very nasty angles actually off of this office if you're standing on this dumpster. Um, you know, you have to. In science, they say on the shoulders of giants. In due process, it's on the shoulders of trash. So you stand here and you peek into that, you get some very nasty angles into tanks and on office. They're head peaks, but if you hit those, it's very they can't see you. It's amazing.
Uh,
Um, so we're
look at
getting into the round here. Actually, looking at an office take instead,
yeah.
I'm glad I think they can hear me.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, everything you're saying gets immediately repeated in game by one team, and then the other team draws the same thing again. We've seen the same angles on tanks. We saw the barb in servers. We saw the positions being marked off in pipeworks. We're seeing people drawing office, questioning, but I don't know what the aversion to office is here. What is going on? They're
I think
not interested in
office
playing office.
office is so hard to take though. I mean, I can understand the aversion to it because as a player, you run in here, particularly because essentially what you're expecting is 5 people on pipeworks. Um,
Just play
really.
on pipeworks next to office. Like you can fall back, you can play the window at least. You can jump out, but at least
No,
create
I'm
a
saying
crossfire.
the aversion as attackers to take office is you're expecting 5 players on pipeworks and
I'm
running through
saying it's
here.
coming
You
from
have
both teams though.
yeah,
Look,
but you
look at
can't
this.
really do that because essentially you're open all the way here. This is all able to shoot you, and that's about a third of the map, and that's kind of scary.
Well, point being, they are taking office, and eventually Popular does find his way up to where I marked, but not seeing like Sam playing that door. I mean, I guess he's gonna come back after flashes, which is good.
See, big
Ooh,
damage
he
coming
comes
out
in
there.
really deep, really quick. I mean, Sam is at 1 HP now. That was a lot of pressure being put on, but look at the amount of damage that they've already dealt from tanks immediately into that door. I mean, you said it, right? Like, that's why you don't want to be taking office, for sure. I think they had options with smokes and whatnot, but Kino's just going to clean up now, one by one, picking up people in office. Pop-Tart as well, finds a pick on Dork, no problem. There's really no options they have at this point. I mean, Smith, 1v3 scenario, Gundam's down, he has a flash. He's gonna flash close on the pop, but it's not quite close enough.
He doesn't
No,
see
no,
Pop
pop is
Tart.
full flash. Pop is full flash, but he's crouched down. Brad is gonna get the pick
Yep.
on Smith.
I
That's gonna be
understand, like,
6-5.
this is why people don't like Office, but when I'm
Yeah,
saying we should take Office, I'm not saying we should actually take Office.
yeah.
That's not what I mean. I think what you really the best take in my opinion here is to do a 1-4, and you
Yep.
have someone out here watching this because there's always the threat of someone coming in the office. Then, what
Yep.
you generally do then is also you distract any green players like, oh no, Office. I'm going to turn and look at that, and you open up a lot of angles for your team entering green, which you should have 4 there. Um, that map is a perfect example of why people need to use smokes, but don't.
Mm-hmm. That's I. The smokes was definitely something I would have wanted to see if you were taking office, but I think more importantly, what you said was true. I would like to have seen a Saber just sitting on the catwalk watching that red door. That's a weird one. You don't see that a whole lot. In fact, I can't think of many other maps where I've seen consistently people opening up an office to play the red door angle and not actually send 4 guys into it immediately. Usually, office is a power position that you want to clear. It's got exterior cover. That one is not the
Hmm.
same case, and I think people are playing off of their experience in other maps maybe a little too much. They're relying on their knowledge of the tile sets a little bit too
Hmm.
much and not reacting to what is actually in front of them. And it's a tile set that does things, or pardon me, it's a specific map that did things a little differently and that shook things up a little bit.
I
In fact,
agree with that.
all these maps are a little different.
I think also though is we have to think about what generally is in Office, and Office almost always, aside from that map, has servers, and servers mean safety. Um, and there's no servers in that office, and so there's no safety.
Yes.
And that's really unfortunate. But also, I mean, Vultures just decimating them. Great plays there. But now we're getting into Vultures holding this Among Us map. As we
Mm-hmm.
see, C-Store podcast still sus. Now, going beyond that, I do want to look at what they are choosing to bar, which is some very interesting angles. Um, Creative to say the least. Now, what
Yes.
um I can kind of understand from these angles is that what they're trying to maintain, in my opinion, is their ability to rotate, because that's always the problem with barbs, is that's always what you're sacrificing, right? You're always
Mhm.
sacrificing your ability to go somewhere, not only theirs but yours.
That's right.
And I think what they want to do is they're kind of expecting something similar, is like maybe a green take, maybe an arcade take, because what that does is allows you to fluidly play around this part of the map. But ultimately, that's exactly where the C store is going.
Yeah.
Um,
I do like
and
Gundam's barb a lot, though. I mean, that one's really
no,
cool. I
that
think,
that's the proper barb. I'm just shocked that there's no barb here or here. It
yeah.
just seems wrong to me personally.
Oh, there it is. Kino, clacker kill, I think, on Senpai immediately. Beautiful damage dealt already to a couple more players. They are jammed in there. I know!
Oh,
God, the frag comes up.
Smith!
Team kill on Jamerson. What have you done?
It's a podcast moment.
That's a podcast moment for sure. Look at them, Pop-Tart, Dad, Kino, just vibing in the smoke, just
Oh.
chilling. They know they won this round already. They got to play their cards right. Dad, just go for the wall bang, man. Just spray. Get
They're
worse right
hotboxing the
now.
storefront.
I mean, barb or not, that worked out. I mean, how much of that was C-Store? How much of that was Vultures? I'm not sure.
But I think the nade there was actually
Whoa!
to clear a barb that they didn't know. Oh, Smith.
I think you're exactly right about that. That frag did seem like out of nowhere, but for their perspective, that was the obvious assumed barb. There goes
Ooh, Sam
Smith,
again.
7-5 for the Vultures against C-Store Podcast here on DPL Rivals.
Great games, and I hope both teams will be VOD reviewing this, because there are certainly things that they can learn. Strong plays from both. I do not want to discount that, but certainly some things that were just interesting that I think were just small mistakes. I think again there Barb wasn't there, and that's the only explanation I have for why that nade would be right there, right?
Yeah.
Is that they were doing it for preemptively for a Barb they were expecting that was not there, and ultimately ended up killing them.
It did. I think there was I can think of 3 team kills, 2 on C-Store, 1 on Vultures that game. That's usually my like bar for like the skill level of a game, is the number of team kills, and that's pretty good. They're getting there. You can knock off a couple more team kills, and you're in a pretty good territory. So I think the team did pretty
I have
well.
definitely done that amount of T kills in a game though.
Yeah,
Now,
but how many of those were me team killing you as well, right?
well, you can't hit anything, Rev. Let's be real.
I'm out of here.
No, but I do want to say, please check out the C Store podcast. Great podcast, great guys, Jamerson and Dork of Doom, really awesome dudes. As well, Vultures looking very strong actually. Um, I think they have a lot to work with. Both teams have a lot to work with, but Vultures in particular, Saint Sam is, in my opinion, one of the most malleable players right now. They are one of the strongest looking players who are still learning the game, and right now that skill ceiling isn't quite touched. And Kino, of course, a superstar who almost led Rats through their relegation match against SVG. Now, Rats, of course, still are in Upper League now because of SVG's unfortunate disbandment is the proper way to say that.
Maybe.
I don't know. English is hard. But
Yeah.
really fantastic games. And also, I think Rivals this year is looking arguably more exciting than Upper League.
I would have to agree, actually. I think there's a lot of cool teams in Rivals that I'm not sure where they're going, but I know they're going up. Whereas in the Upper League, I know they're either going to stay being as good as they are, or maybe they're going to move a little bit in either direction. Maybe they're going to go up a little bit to the side, change some strategies around, maybe their roster a little bit, but nothing too crazy. It's where Rivals that's where Rivals shines, I think, is because Rivals is it's more malleable. There's more stuff moving around, more moving parts, and everyone's learning. And how they learn and the skills that they develop, that's going to inform their type of play, their types of strategy. And I think that's really fun to see, like things like the amount of exterior smokes that Vultures did, or just the types of holds that C-Store Podcast was doing. I mean, they're being playful and they're engaging in Rivals in a really healthy way, and I want to see that. And that's actually really fun to me.
Yeah, I think that's something important to stress, though, is that Rivals is a dual capacity league. It's a league to go and have fun with your friends at, and also be very competitive if you want it to be that. I know and I don't mind saying this on stream because Red Team is very vocal about it themselves, but Red Team enjoys the casual aspect of Rivals. That's what they enjoy. They're not concerned with getting the upper league. They are concerned with having a good time with their friends, and more power to them, really.
Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with that. Rivals is a great space to play casually, to play with some friends that you want to just experience competitive games with, or to use it as the fast track up to DPL and just get in there and grind it out and be the best. Like it's for all of that, and I think it's good that we see a good mix of all those types of teams. So I'm very happy to see teams like Vultures and C-Star playing, and it was a pleasure streaming this match as well and casting it. So I think that about wraps it up.
Absolutely, thank you, and definitely keep an eye out for Revenant on the analyst desk, and also if you guys really want to, we can maybe see about him casting some more. I'm not too sure about his performance today.
We'll see.
Um, we'll see. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in, and that's it for this Rivals game.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Have a great night, everyone.